Good morning. Say, hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast powered by GoTennis. Go check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And I was just chatting with Dave Matthews here. We're going to get a new collection as of hopefully next week to promote his bike-friendly Atlanta promotion. His hard work trying to make our streets safer. We will definitely talk about that at some point. We will get that collection into our shop. If you are interested in any of our shop items, we have collections at shop.letsgotennis.com. You can have your own as well. We actually have one of our students who designed a hoodie and is selling them and making money. So we got cool things going on there. But Dave, today, our series, our 6-week series is the plan. But our series here is, can my kid play college tennis? And I am sure you've heard this question before. And I want to start with that general question, and then we'll go into today's specific topic, which is a question. But I'm going to start with the general question. And Dave, and I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but we are streaming with you on top, me on the bottom of our view, and the UTR rating system in the stream right next to us. So we can be able to eventually look over, and I'll walk us through everything we're looking at now. But I want to start with, can my kid play college tennis? When a parent comes up to you and asks you that question, in your experience, there are potentially 3 answers. Oh yeah, definitely. And no, not a chance. And well, it depends. Maybe. So of those 3 answers, if we were to get started with just that, how often have you given each of those 3 answers in your career?
I think the most given answer, especially because I've been dealing with, and you know as well as anybody, most of the time, most of the kids that I'm dealing with and parents that are coming up either as a group or the kid comes up first and then the parent brings them and drops them off. Then the parent comes back to talk after the first session or something. And, occasionally I do get the parent asking before, which is what we kind of, the last series wanted them to do, is ask them questions before. Why drop them off and ask after in a trial when you can learn so much by asking a few questions a week or 2 ahead in an email and things like that. I think the most given answer that I give is, I think your son or daughter has potential, because a lot of my kids that I coach start when they're, I'd say, sub 14 years old. They're asking this question that really over time, that's the question that really has to be answered, is your commitment over time, because you don't build a college tennis player in a year. Oh my God, if you think you can, you better have been playing a bunch before. And before you came to see me, now what I'm doing, if you're a junior and in high school and you're thinking about playing, you hadn't thought about playing college tennis before now, and now you just think about putting it on the radar, I got to tell you, it's about probably a 1 or 2% out of 100 chance, because all the other kids that you're boxing up against, they're flame throwing and been doing it for 4 to 6 to 8 years of consistent play. I had a 12-year-old not the other day, but about 4 or 5 months ago, moving along really well, got his butt up into about the top 30, 35 in the state, in the 12s, doing really good. That was from 0 ranking the year before. So he got on the playing bandwagon, moving up. Then all of a sudden, I think something happened and he wound up having a stress fracture and a vertebrae in his back. So he's off for 4 months. Well, I got to be honest with you. That's not stress fracture in your back, but injuries are not uncommon. When you are pushing the envelope of your body and this physical demand of this sport so much, you go through 6 to 7 years of training hard every day, I'd say 5 to 7 days a week. Injury is part of it. You're going to have shutdown time. That's right. Sprain an ankle, sprain a knee muscle or an ACL. I'm telling you, you're grinding on that car. You remember we used to run suicides I mean, I looked at you guys and you're screaming every time. Your shoes are screaming on the asphalt every time you went to change a corner. But that's what's demanded of your level of play.
Yeah.
And I don't think parents, kids, I'm not sure if they know, because they're looking out there trying to get there. And the most common answer is Shaun or Mrs. Boyce. I think Shaun has some good potential. He's this age. This is what he needs to add in his schedule on a daily basis and a weekly basis to get into that realm. I don't think they understand how how much it takes in. They think that playing an instrument in a band that they practice an hour or two a day, 5 days a week, they think that tennis is something a whole lot less diminishing or a whole lot less time consuming. And I'm like, no, it's just as time consuming as anything you want to be good at. So that's the answer I got is your son or daughter can probably get there if there's enough time between now and then. And here's what you got to do. And a lot of them, when I start spilling it out, I get about halfway through the spiel of, on-court conditioning, off-court conditioning, recuperation, downtime, study time. And all of a sudden they go, yeah, but when do we get to play on our phone? And I go, you don't. You've got to find a place. Can there be a few moments in the morning, afternoon, and evening where you can pick it up and check some things and make some things? If you want to post, you can, but you better wait 10 seconds before you hit the enter button. And that's one of the things I've learned to teach my kids is I ain't going to tell you it's a good or bad thing. I'm just going to tell you it's time consuming. And if you're going to consume your time, find a good place to do it because it has to be scheduled.
And that's a completely different conversation that I'm sure we can dive into, because I tell kids all the time, anything you want to be good at, you spend your time doing. So think about your day and think about all the things you spend time doing. Those are the things you're good at. Yeah. But we'll have to have another conversation about that one. So what I heard in your answer is by the time a kid gets to you, the answer is rarely no. So those are usually maybe the kids that come to us in a beginner program to say, hey, my kid's 15. We just got 2 kids. They'd never played before September. And they made their high school junior varsity team, and they're elated. And it's fantastic. And we love it, right? Now, we don't have the question, are they going to play in college? Nobody's even asking that question. They were just really excited to play for their high school. And I love that, and I am proud of that. And that's that 0 to 1 concept of just getting started. You want to have some fun. Right. Now, by the time they get to you, there's a good chance, there's almost always a possibility. Now, that leads us into today's question, which is 2 to 3 days a week enough? And in my mind, I'm thinking there's an obvious answer to that, but not everybody seems to know or seems to correlate in the same way that you just pointed out about playing an instrument. If my kid wants to be a phenomenal piano player, he's not doing it once a week for an hour or even twice a week for an hour. It's every day. It's the majority of his free time, his, hers. It's the majority of their free time is just, I love doing this thing. And tennis has to be the same way, right?
I heard somebody I can't remember who it was. I'll remember it in a minute. I heard somebody the other day, they said, they were asked the question, how do you handle going to practice every day? Doesn't it get tiring? And the answer he gave, and it was a guy, I remember in a minute, the answer he gave to me was so on point. He said, I don't think of it as practice because I love what I do. I love going to hit tennis balls, hours. And, Shaun, when I thought back on my career, which, was not one of these world-class pros and all this, but I was pretty good. I'll put it that way. And I remember when I picked up the tennis racket at about 13 years old, and I had played football, baseball, and basketball all year round for about 4 years, from the time I was 8 at the boys club to 12. I played football, baseball, basketball, and they all linked up season to season. They backed up season to season. There was no off time. And I couldn't wait to get to that boys club to play. I enjoyed playing any sport and going at it and wanting to be the best I could be at whatever it was, wherever a coach put me, I was game. Let's go. And when I picked up that tennis racket and identified tremendously with the facets of tennis, which was individuality, it's your game. You win, you lose, and I can handle losing because it's me. And I can get better. If I watch people and put the eggs together, I can figure out a way to take my crate to the winner's circle and leave your crate going home with you. And that's fine with me. And I identify with that. I laid down. Nobody explained to me that if you do this, you can get a college scholarship. We have none of that back then. I laid down football, baseball, and basketball, and I was really good. I was a great shortstop. My Dixie Youth baseball coach made me field enough balls where they started calling me, my nickname at 9 years old was Eureka. Because any ball hit over there, I sucked up and threw you out at first. And to me, that was just that motivation to even get better, you know. And so basketball, I was a pretty good player. Hustling was not a problem. I didn't know nothing but hustle. And then football, I was wherever the coach wanted me to play, but I was going to give you everything I had. You know, the weirdest part was I was a center. I was on the offensive line because I knew how to speed block. You didn't need to open the hole for the whole play. You just needed to open the hole for about 2 seconds, let Shaun, the speed demon, get through there, and then I could just, get off the ground and look down the field and watch you run. And so I did my job. But when I picked up tennis, it gave me a whole new realm of individuality. And from that day forward, and my career more probably as well as anybody, shutting down was not in my repertoire. If I could go and hit with Shaun or John Williams or Thomas Cook or whoever, oh my God, the day just got better. The sunshine got brighter. And so, when I hear people say, well, God, how many days a week do I got to practice? I look at them and I go, that's not the answer I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
The answer I was looking for was right here. Do you want to be here every day?
How many days can I play? How many days do you offer? Can we play every day if we want to? How often is too much? Because I love it and I want to be there and I want to be a part of it. I didn't want to go home and do homework. That's for sure. Me personally, that just wasn't my thing. I didn't love. But getting out there on the tennis court, looking at Jeff Hillmeyer, be like, I am winning this tiebreaker, and I am sick of losing to that 10-year-old John Williams.
Yep. Well, the scary part is that's. When I was 13, my brother was 18. He was graduating. He missed being valedictorian by 1/1000th of a point, and it killed him. You would have looked at him and not thought he was a brainiac. He was smart. He wound up being a computer genius. I mean, literally way out there in dimensions that I never even thought of being as far as scholastic. And my mom looked at my dad, and my dad, who was a drill sergeant in the Army, he drive. You better get them A's. And my mom stopped him when I was 13 and a half years old. I've been playing tennis about a year, almost ready to turn 14. And she stopped my dad one day when I came in the house. He was going on his tirade again about all you do is eat, sleep, and play. That's his phrase. I should make a T-shirt. Eat, sleep, play. What a great life. And he stopped him and said, I'm going to tell you now, being a special ed teacher, your youngest son is not going to have the grades that your oldest son just graduated with. So stop trying. His level of play is far above everybody else's level of play. She could see when I was out on the court or I was in the football or baseball field, she could see the intensity of what I went at it with. And it wasn't that a coach was telling me. It's just the way I was built. My DNA was go and go hard. Luckily for me back then, and I think some of our problems in our scheduling of our kids' days, luckily for me back then, we had in elementary school, we had an hour of recess, which was free play. Me and Shaun could go over and push each other on the swing, or we could go play kickball as a group. We got up. And then there was also an hour later of PE, which was structured play. The whole class would do one thing. And so you learned free play, structured play. Okay, these are the differences. But you got out of the classroom for 2 hours a day. And that was the only way I was going to get through it, because I had energy like my guy on Ted Lasso is a soccer player. He says they offered him a free coffee maker as being one of the pro players on the team as a perk. And he says, "Oh no, my mother said I was born caffeinated." It's
born
a great line.
Caffeinated. There's your other shirt, right?
I was born caffeinated. I don't need caffeine.
So I wanted to ask, I don't know if you can see this, Dave, but I'm looking at the UTR rating system.
Right.
And we've talked to academy coaches like yourself, the UTA guys. We've talked to college coaches, Division I to NAIA college coaches. We've talked to coaches of professional players. And UTR is that great guideline. It's not necessarily the only piece, in the same way that you're going to say, hey, being born caffeinated is not a necessity to play college, but it really helps. And we know who those kids are. But as I look at the UTR ratings, and we've got this up on the live stream as well, on the video if you're watching, we've got the what we call junior sectionals and junior nationals, and then we go up to college. And the interesting thing that I find, and if we talk about, I'm not going to go through the boys versus the girls necessarily, but the real interesting thing is if we look at college women, and you want to play Division III college women, you essentially need a 3.5 UTR. Okay?
Right.
So the question, and my friend Jerry Campanucci is going to love this. The question is, can my daughter play college tennis? The answer is probably yes. Probably yes, but it's going to take more than 2 to 3 days a week because of the UTR rating that's required for colleges to put those teams together. Now, Division III college men, you need at least a 7.0. Now, these are ranges of typical, right? Right. And then in that case, it goes all the way up to Division I college men. You need to be a 9.5. Now, that's usually above even your Line 1 large high school, Lambert, Peachtree Ridge type of high school, Chattahoochee. So those Line 1 players, you've usually got one kid that's better than everybody else. Yep. But that's not necessarily the kid we're talking about today. We'll talk about that kid in the future. But today it's that, are you borderline? Are you already a player? You've already made it to a Dave Matthews Tennis Academy, or you're looking into that. It isn't, I'm in tennis for children and I like tennis and this is fun. What racket should I get? Not the same conversation. So in this case, if you're thinking, can my kid play college tennis? I suggest, and this is different from Dave's suggestion because he's got a different experience. I'm more of a numbers technical. Can I play? The cool thing about UTR is it now pretty much shows me where I am. If my son is 14 years old and he's a freshman in high school age and he's playing some sectionals, it looks like he's sectionals, he's probably not playing Division I if he's not nationals. So that the cool thing is it's got all the range of saying, okay, my son wants to go play at UGA. Okay, good chance you knew that was coming by the time he was 10.
Oh, sure.
Well, that's probably where you are. If your kid's 14 and you're wondering if he can play college tennis, let's just take Division I out of the conversation. Let's have some realistic expectations here. Now, if he or she just gets addicted and just loves it, don't even have to be born caffeinated, just loves it and plays and plays and plays and doesn't want to do their homework, I think I'm pretty much describing myself, and really just wants to play a lot, then sure, I'd say the sky's the limit. Now, it probably isn't because you probably need to start at 7 for the sky to actually be the limit today because of everybody out there that's actually playing. But in your experience, Dave, you see more of the USTA tournaments as a USTA official. So you're going to potentially look more at where am I ranked? Am I top 20 in the state. I remember I was one of the last kids to go play NAIA college tennis. So I was one of
Right.
those lower levels. If I look up here and it doesn't have an NAIA college, so
Right.
maybe
Right.
that's similar to Division three unless you're at GGC. So it's a
Yeah.
similar level. So maybe I was an 8.0, a 9.0, maybe as a tennis player when I was
Right.
17 years old, 16 years old, getting
Yep.
recruited. And recruiting is another conversation. But in this
Sure.
case, what in your experience have you seen? I was 39 in the state when I graduated high school in the
Yep.
boys 18s as a 16-year-old. Now, granted, this we did all the math by writing down our scores on a pencil and mailing
Yep.
it in at the end of the year. So it's
Right.
different today.
Yep.
But there's a range there as well in the USTA tournaments that gets your name on the board.
Yeah, I think, and I can remember this back even to the Hillemeyer days and the John Williams days, which were the early '90s. I think with the USTA ranking, and like we talked about before, there are going to be fallacies in almost every system that is out there because you don't have a massive pool of money that you as a kid are going and winning a part of. So it becomes somewhat of a challenge, economic challenge for somebody. It is. It's an investment. It is. But as my dad, who didn't play a lick of sports, who was a drill sergeant, a retired, well, he wasn't retired when I was in school, but when, he was in the Army and we didn't have this big budget like a lawyer or, somebody who makes a lot of money. And so I spent my time traveling around East Central Alabama, West Central Georgia, the Columbus, Phoenix City area. I'd go as far away as Montgomery. Probably, I never went over to Georgia because I was in Alabama. So I went to Alabama more. I'd go down to Enterprise. I'd go to Dothan, Eufaula, Opelika, Auburn, Montgomery, Alex City, which is right, just outside of Birmingham, a little bit west of Birmingham, east of Birmingham. But I spent my weekends. I mean, I remember one summer, I think I was like, when I turned 16 years old, my summer program was we're off for 12 weeks. We got out Labor Day, went back on Memorial Day, or vice versa, Memorial Day to Labor Day, 3 months. I had 10 tournaments. They were all Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournaments. And people going, what are you doing for the summer? And I said, playing tennis.
Playing tennis.
I mean, whenever I got out of a tournament, I came back home, found somebody to hit with, kept going. And that's when I started accelerating, and not at 16, but even before then, my time on the court, it's like I heard somebody the other day was talking about, part of Kobe Bryant's, story was, he worked out 2 days a week. And he says, so what happens if you add a 4 to 6 a.m. shift every day? He goes, what does that do to your level of play, adding 2 hours more 5 days a week to you and your competition? It starts separating you. He goes, and
Are
over
you
2 years,
willing to do it?
that's right. And over 2 years, that amount of time will never be recuperated in a player's career. So you have separated yourself by committing for 2 years for an extra workout 5 days a week. And I was like, yeah, Kobe, I got you, bro. I'm right there with you. I would have been the one getting off the turf to do it.
But today,
But who else would?
there's the thing. Today is different, right? You played in whenever you played. I played back in the day whenever I played, right? There were no cell phones. There was no Twitter. There were no distractions. And even the professional players come off, they finish their match, they check their phone, right? I get it. It's part of life. It's fine. Like you say, it's not good or bad, but what are you spending your time doing? So maybe that's the thing, is I look at, and I'm a homeschool type. So I put my example as, do I want my kid to be educated or do I want him to be really good at going to school? And I find a difference there. And that's just me and my family and how we operate. But
Big difference.
Yeah, but in this case, it's okay, what is your kid good at? And what does he love? He, she, I still default to he because my son. So I've got my son, and that's
Sure.
what my brain thinks to. But
Sure.
if we use him as an example, we don't give him a phone. There's none of that because, and he still goes for it like a crack addict. I mean, he's still
Sure.
going
Oh,
for it. He
sure.
doesn't even know what it is yet. He's like, I need the phone. Like, how is that possible? But like, we needed the tennis court, and we got ourselves into it. What is your kid doing? So maybe that would be my answer. I'll give you your last word, Dave, to say, I'm going to ask the question again, can my kid play college tennis? We'll ask that for 6 weeks straight. My answer to can your kid play college tennis is, does he spend most of his time, his or her time, playing tennis? If not, the answer is probably not. Because I think that is the thing. You want to do something in college. Piano, I was a vocalist, I was a singer, and
Yep.
that I had to separate my time between performing and tennis. So I was
That's
only
right.
so good at both. Right? So I had those two different things, and they were academics. I had to at least pass my classes.
Sure.
So, but it wasn't a thing I loved. I didn't go home and love getting the answer right. That didn't matter to me. I loved chasing down the drop shot. That was what
Yep.
I loved. So for me, my question to the parent is, what's your kid doing all day? What does your kid love? If they love tennis, they've got a chance. Dave, can my kid play college tennis? What's your point of view?
My point of view is probably the easiest thing we could do as a tennis instructor or just a person that's got an interest, in answering their question for them, hand them a piece of paper and go, here's 24 hours in a day. Write down, just right now, today's schedule. What are they doing? And let them put it down there and see how much tennis is on there. And then say, this is a 7-day program. What are you doing 7 days a week for your tennis? Because that is going to determine whether you can really play college tennis or not, is the amount of time you're putting in on a weekly or daily basis. If you're not already doing it, by the time they're probably, I would say 13 to 14 minimum. I mean, yes, we like to start them earlier, but some kids are just not exposed early enough, okay? But by the time they're 13 or 14, which is solid into middle school, their schedule is already going. They are not going to make an amendment change to add 3 more days of tennis when they're already doing, let's say, 2 to 3. They're not going to do that. Oh, no, because we have kids all the time coming to us in our program over at Beaufort City. Oh, well, we do guitar on this day and trumpet on this day and this. And we're like, then what are you asking us that you want your son to play number 1 line singles on an alto team? And right now he's number 2 doubles. He ain't going to move up unless he gets on the court with more time. So, yeah, you can hand them a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and go, can you draw down what they did today? And if they're not putting, I'd say, an hour and a half of good, decent on-court time in today, and, to me, my hour and a half is not hitting 50 balls in an hour and a half and standing in a line for, 60 minutes. I see that all the time. And I just start laughing. You need to hit balls. I don't care who feeds them. I don't care. Do I care? Yes. But you need to hit balls. Repetition is the only way, and 7 days of repetition beats 2 days of repetition almost every day.
There you go. There's the answer. I like it. Dave Matthews, can my kid play college tennis? The answer is, let's talk about it again next week.
You got
Thanks so much. See you next week, Dave.
You bet, buddy. Have a good day.
And I think we're out.
Okay, good.
And